I'm excited to talk about chaos. Woohoo! Everybody loves chaos. I say that obviously in sarcasm. It's chaos is one of those things that it shows up uninvited to our dealerships. It's one of those things that without a concerted effort, chaos rears its ugly head. And so we're going to share some strategies today on how to at least eliminate some of these gremlins from the sales pipeline. Chaos can show up in a lot of different parts of the business, and so you some of you may have heard some of my webinars where we've talked about eliminating some of that chaos from the service process, an equally challenging part of the business, maybe in some ways even more challenging. But the last few years, sales has become trickier, and the supply chain has led to that. There have been a lot of factors that have led to that, and so we're going to dive in. First and foremost, if you don't know me yet, I'm Tim Berman. Glad to meet you. I'm a former dealer for most of my professional life. Came to join Constellation a little over 3 years ago when we sold the family dealership. And so I've grown up in this business. We did compact tractors, we did side-by-side UTVs, mowers, handheld equipment, trailers. We had a location also that did was a full range of gooseneck and bumper pull trailers, dump trailers, floats, all of that, as well as towable RVs. And so we've touched a lot of different kinds of equipment over the years. Took a lot of different stuff on trades, everything from cars to even some things that eat. Though that quickly became a rule. If someone said, "What do you take in trade?" We say, "Nothing that eats." But love this business and love helping others solve problems in the business, through strategy and through software that solves problems. So today I'm a product manager over our Target CRM, which is our CRM that works with all three of the brands that you see: Ideal, Systems, Charter, Software, and so I was a customer also before joining the team too. So love this crew here and love what we do. Enough about me. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about what's happening in the world today. In the sales pipeline, we've got some real challenges around the customer journey. What's the customer journey? Well, it's we don't always talk about it in such terms. In some places it's a normal term, in some places it's kind of foreign, but it's everywhere the customer goes in their shopping journey or shopping experience, whatever that looks like, whether that's Joe homeowner, whether that's more like a business or municipality that's what steps do they take? What places do they go? How do they reach out? How do they get pricing and availability and things like that? It's complicated, and for you to get visibility into that is complicated. And it's complicated because of some of the nuances of the industry. This is it's a high touch type of an industry. It's not like Chick-fil-A where people come in, place an order, and 67 seconds later they've got their food and the transaction's done. It's I see a whole school bus go into Chick-fil-A and they've processed all of them in like 15 minutes. Meanwhile, when 3 people would show up at the dealership, we were overwhelmed. 4 people, we just didn't have that kind of capacity. One person could tie you up for 3 hours. This is a complicated business in some regards. It's just not the same as food, and that can lead to chaos, as well as the seasonality of the business, the peaks, the valleys. We've had, by hitting record numbers, year after year for a while, and that's tapered off a little bit, but we're still well north of where we were as far as overall sales pre-pandemic. We're still well over the 2019 numbers in most every case I've seen. I'm certainly looking at the averages. But when the valleys happen, we're catching our breath. Are we retooling? Um, Dealing with the limited supply of products, we have almost everything we need to fill a deal, except for this one mount kit or this hose kit or this thing. And so we're going to talk about some ways that we can not drop balls there because it's such an easy thing to do. Anybody that knows me knows I like to talk about silver bullets. I use this often. I maybe overuse it, but I want to drive home a point because I see it almost on a daily basis when I'm talking with dealers that some of these problems are so painful that they're looking for silver bullets, and so they'll go spend 15 or $20,000 on on some piece of software, and then another 6 or 8 or $10,000 on this other piece of software, and they go buy these tools, hoping tools will solve the problem when first they they've got to get their mind in the right place. And tools are only they're only good at automating processes that you've defined, that you understand. And while tools can solve a lot of problems at the end of the day, you first have got to understand what exactly is the problem that I'm trying to solve. And so let's dig in a little bit further. This is one of my dad's favorite cliches. If you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. What's the definition of insanity? You see memes posted a lot on social media. If you're on there, it's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. On the one hand, this is true. How many dealers have you spoken with? But what's your plan for marketing for next year? Well, we're just going to do what we've always done. Customers, we don't really do a lot of marketing, and customers just show up. Um, in some cases and in some scenarios, you could do the same thing over and over again, and you'll see probably about the same results year after year, but you're not going to grow. You're not going to improve. But then also things are changing, and so in some respects, this saying doesn't apply in that, well, if things change significantly in the market, we have to change with them. And so, but in terms of the same things year after year cause chaos, the same broken processes can cause chaos. And if we don't try to do anything different, if we don't leave no stone unturned, we're never going to be able to improve them. And so we've got to have a mindset of being open to trying some new things, not change for the sake of change, but change for the sake of our team's sanity. I promise you that if you can eliminate even just a percentage of chaos, you will see a difference in your employee turnover. You'll see a difference in the kind of feedback you get from customers and the reviews that are left on Google and Facebook and other places, and how they talk about you on social media. You'll see a difference in customer loyalty. So we've got to do some things different than we've ever done before. Let's talk about the sales pipeline. For some of you, you may use this term pipeline on a regular basis. For some of you, that's kind of a foreign term. So humor me. I'm going to use this term a lot, maybe not to ad nauseum, but the idea is, if you think of this pipeline being horizontal and from left to right, the customer is going from left to right, and the farther they get to the right, the closer they are to making a purchase, and ultimately they buy. The sales pipeline is a pipeline is often the way we refer to our sales process, maybe how we visualize the customer journey. And I'm going to show you a graphic here in a minute about that. But think about the sales process in terms of stages, from lead to close. Lead being when we meet the customer. Maybe they filled out a form on our website. Maybe they texted us. Maybe they called us. Maybe they walked in. So, they're this lead or opportunity to close, meaning when they've bought. We want to identify, and I'm going to give you an example, sales pipeline that identifies these stages. Why? Because typically when there's chaos or there's breakdowns, it's not just at random. It's in specific places for specific reasons. So here's some examples. New lead, quote, payment financing, back order, make ready or delivery. I didn't make a beautiful graphic here, but looking at it visually, at the top is when this is a new opportunity. As you get closer to the bottom, these are all things that are that occur closer to the transaction, right? We meet the customer, by text, or they call in, so forth and so on. They want pricing and availability, right? So the next step um, we're gonna get them that pricing and availability, right? We have it in stock, or no, we can get it. We've got it in a warehouse nearby. We're gonna do a dealer transfer, whatever, ever how you obtain the inventory, but we're gonna quote it. Here's the price for it, and with this 0% interest incentive, here's the cash discount, ever how you menu price it, right? And ultimately, when they start making arrangements to pay, um, then you're a lot farther down the line, right? You didn't scare them off with the price. They're good. They're good with it. Once they've given their social security number up and filled out the credit app with you with the financing, right? They're pretty dang committed by that point. Um, and Still, some things can happen. Maybe they're buying a tractor and a loader and a backhoe, and we have everything except for the backhoe mount kit there, or we have everything but the power beyond needed to hook that thing up, or we've got everything but they wanted turf tires and we have R4s, that kind of thing. All right, so we got to get them. Oh, they're, we can get the fronts, but the rear tires are back ordered. Um, you know, things hold us up, and then ultimately the make ready. But as the customer travels from one stage to the next, and this is, I would say, for all intents and purposes, a little oversimplified. The most you could probably identify, especially with a bigger tractor deal or a skid steer, or certainly the bigger ticket the deal, the more steps there are involved. For instance, trade-in. Um, Trade-ins will introduce, more steps, more and more possibilities for balls to be dropped. But balls can be dropped at every one of these stages, and dropped balls can lead to chaos. For instance, if a customer fills out a lead form on the website, and maybe they fill out like two of them, those, from just about every dealer I've spoken with, pretty much everybody's getting them by email, right? That's how it was a few years ago in my dealership too. So not much has changed. Um, they come in by email. Oftentimes they're going to a distribution list, meaning two or three people get the lead at the same time. Well, who decides who's going to reach out to them? Some folks have got a process for that. A lot of folks don't. And it's sort of, well, whoever's free, because we just want to help the customers, and no harm in that. Except, what happens if two people reach out to the same customer, within an hour or two of one another, and recommend two different products, or they get them a quote on the same product, but it's two different prices. That happens. So you've got the salesperson collision. You've got two or more people reaching out to the same customer. That can lead to confusion. Customer never lets you go with the higher price of the two quotes, of course, right? And so these are challenges that happen kind of around that first two stages. um, Worse, if more than one person is getting the lead, they can assume that the other person is getting back with that customer. Well, how do we get visibility into that? How do we know? Did two people reach out to the customer? Did nobody reach out to the customer yet? How do we know? When you get to the payment side of things, um, you know, Are we taking salespeople off the line to be loan officers and fill out credit apps, and have to deal with negotiating terms with banks and doing the interviews with customers to figure out, okay, so, you've got two mortgages, but you've owner financed one of those out, so you have income coming in to offset that and all of that stuff. That can be certainly, that can be time consuming. Balls can be dropped if we're not careful, especially if we're in a hurry. You can't transpose digits on social security numbers. That's not going to work, and that can hold up deals, getting things signed and that sort of thing. And so chaos can rear its ugly head at any of these points, and especially on the back order side of things. One back order is one thing, three back orders is another. And then what happens if something's back ordered into perpetuity, which a lot of things are? We don't know when they're going to show up, or our distributors and OEMs don't often know. Their suppliers don't tell them either. And so, well, it'll be here when it gets here. So does the customer go ahead and take delivery of everything except for this one component? In the case of the tractor loader backhoe, do they go ahead and take the tractor and whatever other equipment, but they get the backhoe whenever the Power Beyond comes in? And then we just say, bring it back up and we'll install it. That's one solution I've seen done. But how do you keep up with that? So when that Power Beyond comes in, how do we make sure we don't sell it to somebody else? How do we make sure that it goes to the right customer, that we reach out to that customer timely, say, hey, this Power Beyond came in, let's go ahead and get your backhoe installed, that kind of thing. 3 months, it could be 3 months down the line. Nobody's going to remember it at that point. And so we have to have a system for that. I'm gonna show you an example of how we think this can work really smoothly. And the same thing, around make ready and delivery, especially delivery. In the case of, if this is being delivered, is it the same address as the billing address, or do they live in town but they want this thing delivered to the deer lease or to their ranch or to some other place, to a second home somewhere else? And actually backing up, in the case of the payment side of things, is there a trade-in involved? I mentioned trades earlier as a potential source of chaos. Are we picking up this trade at the same time we're delivering this other piece of equipment? And maybe we made arrangements to go check it out, but we didn't pick it up and bring it in at that time because they hadn't made the commitment. And so now ultimately, are we picking up the trade? How do we make sure that if so, when we make that delivery, we get the trade? So it will. I tell people some of these things put white blotches in my goatee, because there's I can think of any cases where we went and we did go make that delivery and we had everything down, but we forgot to pick up. There was this implement or a four-wheeler or something that we were picking up, and we left it behind. Had to go make another trip for it, and it may have may have made the difference between actually making money on the trade or not. And so how do we make sure that this stuff doesn't happen? Well, at many of these stages, communication with the customer and with the team is so crucial. And having some sort of visual way to see where our deals are, where these opportunities are in the pipeline with good clear notes, everything in one place, is critical. I talked about the pipeline. Think about it from, again, horizontal from left to right. We were looking at it vertically and with bullet points, but now look at it on, some of you may know what a Kanban board is. Regardless of whether or not you're familiar with the term, the idea is you have these columns, and the farther to the right these little rectangles are, each one of these is a deal. The closer they are to being sold, right? New lead, contacted, quoted. This has a couple more steps than the last process we were looking at. Everybody's could look a little bit different, but when you have a visual way to see where these are, you could see where they start to pile up. You could throw something like this up on a screen on the wall, and I'm going to talk about. It's not actually products we sell, but I'll tell you how you can put together a screen like this for just a few hundred bucks, to where you could meet around a view like this and go, okay, we've got looks like a deal in financing. Whoever the loan officer is, or whoever's wearing the loan officer hat, even if that's not their title. What do we got to do to get them to commit to that next stage? And these two that are in the payment stage, do we have any kind of dollars, commitment from them now? Have they given us 500 or 1,000, 2,000 bucks? Um, you know, and what do we got to do to get them to the next stage? Because you see, customers can go dark at any one of these stages, on us, and we may have invested a lot of time. Just like balls can be dropped, sometimes the customer, just ghosts us, and all that time and money we've invested in them is for naught. So this is one solution to how you can see the sales process. You can visualize it. You don't have to imagine it, and you can see, okay, where are we stuck? We can talk through it. And the idea is, and I don't have a view of this, but our team can always show you if you wanted to see how we tackled it in our CRM and Target CRM. But you can open up each one of these, and there's a home for all the notes and everything that's ever happened with this, and so we can pick up from one salesperson to the next and that kind of thing. And we can see if somebody's already helping them. We eliminate that salesperson collision, that kind of thing. One thing's for sure, this is an old saying. I don't even know who to attribute it to, but I won't take credit for it. I just think it's great that time is the greatest enemy of sales, but it can be, and this is my spin on it, its greatest ally. And what I mean is, um, every deal has sort of an expiration, right? People drop off the face of the earth at any point in the sales process. And one thing's for sure, if we delay for any reason, unnecessarily, we've not helped the deal. All right, because there's typically somebody out there who's hungry enough and fast moving enough that they're working on this customer too. We're not the only person they reached out to check on that pricing and availability in many cases, particularly if this is a new customer type of situation. Now, if somebody who's bought from you for 20 years, you're going to typically have a little more latitude, but there's an urgency, and there has to be this mindset of urgency. And if there's not, these deals often go bad. And sometimes it's not that the customer goes and buys somewhere else, just bad things happen the longer time elapses. The probability of people getting into car accidents and having health scares and coming down with COVID and all of these things. Some of you may be nodding if this has happened to you. I wish we could do a show of hands, because when I do a show of hands on something like this, everybody raises their hands. All of these things happen at any stage in the process, and it kills deals. But time can be your greatest ally if you move faster, and that's the point. How do we make sure that we move faster? How do we make sure that we eliminate chaos at each one of these stages in the process, right? How do we make sure that we reach out to to these new customers timely and we don't collide, right? How do we make sure we're not overwhelmed by new leads, by by sort of flying blind? How do we make sure we get visibility into close rate? That's not a term. I talk to a lot of really smart dealers on a day-to-day basis who manage by the numbers, and this is not a number that we have historically had visibility into. Close rate, meaning, it's a simple math. The total opportunities or leads per salesperson, divided by the number that actually that they won. What percentage were won versus lost? How many dollars are in the pipeline? We can do reports in all of our systems of how many dollars we've sold, but how many dollars are in the pipeline, right? So it's so critical to have visibility into that as well. So, well, I don't want to belabor the negative because we all know that stuff. We live it. So let's definitely talk solutions and best practices. Get all the leads in one place. I showed you a picture of a pipeline, right? There needs to be a leads owner. Okay. Some of you are large enough organizations to have a sales manager. Maybe that's a sales manager over multiple stores. Maybe it's a sales manager at each store. I see all different types of arrangements. Sometimes the leads owner is not a sales manager. The sales manager is just more of a coach to help push deals through and just sort of make sure that that salespeople have everything they need to do the deals. And sometimes it's more of a marketing person that would own the leads, but it needs to be somebody who makes sure everybody's helped. That's all. It doesn't have to be anything sophisticated, and it doesn't have to be somebody with an MBA or anything like that. Just somebody who's organized, and who will also really, this person will typically help drive the usage of the CRM, right? Um, Here's another one. Okay, so we got leads coming in from all over, right? They're coming from our website, they're coming from Craigslist, Tractor House, Facebook Marketplace, our OEMs. People are then reaching out through every communication channel. So there's all these leads coming into different places. The leads owner's got to figure out who helps the customer. Well, if the customer has walked in, driven in, that kind of thing, then oftentimes that sort of resolves itself, but especially if it's like the digital, they've texted, they've emailed, that kind of thing, or they've reached out through the website, who gets them? Some dealers do product specialists, right? So in my dealership, we sold all these different products. Well, at some seasons, everybody sold everything, including used stuff. And then at other times, and some of it varied by the skill of the team that we had. Sometimes we needed to have people who specialized, right? We had some of the more experienced folks, they would take the bigger deals, they would take the more complicated deals, 130 horse tractor versus the newbies. We could teach them to sell mowers real quick. That was an easy thing to teach them to sell handheld equipment, right? And then as they built experience, they started working, some of the more complicated deals, the tractor packages and so forth. If you're carrying a really different mix, maybe you're pure power sports or pure marine, you've got your lower end and your higher end products, and so adapt accordingly. Another one was the leads by experience. Does everybody get round robin? Everybody get the exact same quantity of deals, or do more experienced people get more deals? Typically, your more experienced folks are going to be more efficient with them. So, I would say, your mileage may vary. I've seen both work, and no one way is right, but I would say do what works for you. The big deal here is, and you'll eliminate so much chaos, and you'll win more deals than you can imagine if you can average all leads contacted in under 24 hours. If you already mastered this, I'll give you something more challenging. The true best practice is all leads contacted in under 1 hour. Now, we don't live in a perfect world, and I wish we did. Most dealers, they get back to leads maybe in 2 or 3 days, if at all, and particularly the web leads, right? And we prioritize. If someone has come into the dealership, we're going to give them attention first, and we should, right? If they've taken time out of their day to come in, people don't just go visit dealerships all that much anymore. They come in if they're ready to do something. So yeah, we prioritize them. However, I know a lot of dealers who have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of leads coming in, and we're just not applying the best practices. We drown in the chaos of them, and we don't have visibility to even manage it, and so we miss the opportunity. So I would say if that's where you are, or somewhere beyond the 24 hours, make it a goal to get all leads contacted in under 24 hours. Use a system that gives you visibility into that. And then when you master that, dial it up a notch. Maybe all leads contacted in under 12 hours. See if you can, and there will always be exceptions. It's not the end of the world if that metric gets away for a season, but it's a best practice. And from folks in the industry who have done a lot of studying on such things on lead management and close rates, most dealers would sell 50 to 100% more by rather contacting all leads in under 24 hours. It makes that much of a difference. We talked about some of the quoting chaos, right? The salesman collision, different prices quoted, different products recommended sometimes. But here's this fourth point: customers taken backward in the process. You ever had a salesperson that had a customer pretty far along, and then another salesperson, maybe it was a family member or something, starts talking to them, and how many acres do you have? And they start making conversation, and next thing you know, it almost just turned into this qualification conversation, and the customer gets taken backward in the process. It's one thing to make conversation, but don't take them back into qualification if we've already gone beyond that. The only reason we would do that is if we think there's a wrong recommendation being made, maybe by a junior salesperson, and then we do that. But best practices: one owner per lead, right? Assigned by that lead owner. Don't interfere between leads. Okay, it's one thing for a sales manager to get in and help move a deal along. It's another for one salesperson to get into another salesperson's business and interfere with the leads. Not necessarily trying to cause a problem, maybe just being friendly, but it's a sensitive thing. Get all the notes in one place, especially for if a salesperson is suddenly out one day. Um, you know, we need to be able to pick it up, because again, time is the enemy of sales. So how do we make sure if a salesperson, they call in sick, can someone, maybe, someone may not be, pounding the phone onto their prospects or doing necessarily all their follow-ups, but at least if one of their customers comes in to buy, we don't want to rummage through their desk, right? We've probably all been there. And, where even are their notes? Is it a Big Chief tablet? Is it one of those little pocket notebook things that goes in their front shirt pocket? Is it an app? Where is this stuff? So instead, all notes need to be, for each deal, need to be in one place, something that belongs to the company, right? The CRM is what we teach as the best practice. So there's a seamless transfer from one salesperson to another, whether that's a manager or, somebody is left and a new salesperson slides in and they're picking up their deals. We need to be able to know where we leave off. Where are we at with this lead? What stage are they in? Have they been quoted? Are they doing a trade? That kind of thing. We just don't want them to slip through the cracks. And how long has it been since someone has reached out to them too? That's oftentimes the bigger one, because oftentimes when somebody leaves, unless they left on the best of terms, there's typically some balls that have already been dropped. And so we want to know as fast as possible where those are. Payment, financing, trades. This, trades is one that's tricky. Most all the dealers in the last couple of times I've presented on this material, when I've asked for a show of hands, everybody took trades. I think that, and I don't have science or data to back this up, but I believe this is changing a lot. 5 years ago, if I would have done that, I think maybe only a percentage of people would have raised their hands and said, yeah, we take trades. And the reason is because of the challenges involved in it, chiefly being cash, right? I've got this stuff that's floor planned, and if I take a trade against it, that's that much less money I have to pay Wells Fargo or North Point or DLL or whomever it is. So, and then is this thing even running? And, how long is it going to sit in the shop? And, do we have somebody who can accurately appraise and quickly? Are we gonna have to pick it up from, and is this at the customer's house or is it out at their deer lease? And does it have four flat tires, or all of these question marks, and they can really create some problems if we're not prepared for them. You know, you know, Another one is, we talked about the financing options. Every lender is a little bit different in what they require paperwork wise. Some of them require a copy of the bill of sale, some don't. Some require two forms of ID scanned, and I think most of them are beyond faxing, but there may still be some that fax. So it's like, okay, how and does a salesperson just do the credit app, or are they running the credit app too, and then are they involved in the closing paperwork too? How do we make sure we get everything we need there and signatures on everything in the right place? There can be a lot of chaos around the paperwork, um, and it's complicated, right? But we live in a world where a huge percentage of what we sell is finance, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Maybe over the last couple of years, we had some folks who were a little more flush with cash that were writing checks. I think we're going to be going through a time where maybe more people will finance, but that's pure speculation. Um, but let's talk about some best practices. And this is controversial. You're welcome to disagree with me on this, but hear me out. I don't believe sales reps make the best loan officers. I think loan officers need to have sales skills, but sales reps are not the best people to fill out credit apps and do finance interviews and do closing paperwork, um, for multiple reasons. But they're moving at such a pace that it's really easy for balls to get dropped here. And every minute that they spend doing financing stuff is time they're not following up with customers. So now, does that mean you need to go out and hire an F&I team? Depends on how big your dealership is, I would say. Oftentimes, for folks, you know, maybe having somebody from the back office to run the credit apps makes the most sense. However, sometimes our back office people are intentionally back office people, and they don't really want to talk to customers all day, every day, and they may or may not be good closers. Well, you need somebody who's going to have the ability to close, right? Especially with interest rates being higher. If you're going to the customer with a standard rate that's 8% or 7.5%, what happens when the customer gets sticker shock there? They may think, well, I just financed my car at 3.5% or 4% at some subsidized rate. They may not understand it was subsidized. I just got, 0% for 48 months on my car. It used to be, longer than that, but that's the long term of 0%. I think those days are behind us for a while, but still they see a difference. They got a lower rate on their mortgage, so why is it so high on their tractor or on their lawnmower? Or why is it a 5 or 6% difference between financing and cash? Someone's got to be able to explain that. So you need someone with good soft skills, someone who has the ability to close, or if nothing else, what you do is you have back office or somebody who's just good with transcribing information and working with these finance companies to get the best options for the customer and have the salesperson close it. But sales reps are not typically the best loan officers, even if they're super detail oriented. If nothing else, their time is more valuable than that. And don't put that on their plate if you can help it. If you're a large enough scale, you could probably justify, one, two, or more folks. And of course, if you have multiple locations, you don't have to have, large teams at each location. You can centralize some of this stuff and then maybe have closers at each location. So, but one key that we always we practiced, and it makes such a difference. I mentioned customers drop off at every step of the way. They're a lot less likely to just drop off the face of the earth if you have some of their money. They at least have to tell you, hey, I bought somewhere else. I need that $500 back. And then it's up to you as far as what your mentality is as far as giving back deposits and that kind of thing. But I'm a big believer in make it really, really easy for customers to pay. So obviously, you know, having accepting credit cards, I think most everybody does these days. There's still a few folks that go, I don't take credit cards. We're cash and check only. And to that, I would say you're crazy. At least accept credit cards for something like this, but get that customer deposit. And I'm a big believer in text to pay. Text the customer a link, let them pay on their phone. It eliminates all the excuses, makes it easy. They don't even have to get a hold of you to do that, right? Get that even a couple $100, get some kind of financial commitment from them, and they can't ghost you. They have to explain they bought somewhere else if that happens. And oftentimes they're a lot less likely to shop when they've committed. We're going to talk briefly about back orders. Time's getting away from us. Um, we talked about there's scenarios where we have everything in stock except for the mount kit or that host kit, maybe key accessories that they need, the top, the wet sounds, the suspension seats, the LED light bar. Maybe it's specific attachments. Maybe they want a mid-mount mower and we don't have one for that particular machine, or the tires. All of these can lead to chaos if I've got to go to 3 different places to get what I need to close the deal. And I'm a big believer in dealers working together. And so, we've connected our dealership systems. Ideal and C systems dealers are connected. Charter dealers, this is coming. We have this parts locator that you can use to find these accessories and attachments and tires. And if it's something serialized, there's a whole goods locator. You're able to find even those things, that attachment. It's up to you to strike that alliance with the dealer. You don't see their price or their cost. You just see if they have it or not. But dealers have been helping dealers with this. We see hundreds of thousands of searches running through this of people looking for things. And people are getting rid of things that were collecting dust in warehouses and in back lots and all of that, because while it's obscure for your market, maybe it's hot in somebody else's market. Maybe it was something that was ordered wrong and that kind of thing. So use locators to track down some of these things. It's not going to solve all the problems, but it will help move some things along. Have a parts manager or somebody go through once a week and just hit the locators for any of these back orders to see if something pops up, and it will help eliminate some of the chaos. Again, I come back to make sure to have all the deals and notes in one place. Why? When these things start to come in and when we've tracked them down, we got to remember, where do they go? Are there any weird one-offs we need to know about? There's a lot of deals that have one-off special requests from customers. And we need to make sure that we have everything in one place, so all the key people involved can know if it's a parts manager or just a parts counter person, or somebody who works in a warehouse type of role. So they know, these yeah, there's a back order under this customer name in the dealer management system. So we've done that forever in the DMS, but how do I know, what do I do with that? Because by default, I would pick up the phone and call the customer, hey, your thing is in. Well, and were we supposed to install it? So somebody who owns these deals, ideally you're having a daily stand-up or Monday, Wednesday, Friday stand-up meeting where you're talking through these that are on back orders. Have we had anything come in? Where are we at with these? So when the things come in, we know, yes, we're installing this, or no, we're giving this to the customer, they're installing it themselves. They already have some of this order, that kind of thing. Nobody memorizes, the one-offs, right? Let's rely on the notes for that, especially because if somebody has something memorized, what happens if they leave or they're sick? Find aftermarket substitutes is another key. I'm a big believer in using the aftermarkets to, where it makes sense, where it meets the customer's needs. Sometimes aftermarket's not the quality that they need. Sometimes aftermarket is exactly what they need. We're short on time. Make ready. Oops. Chaos can rear its ugly head here. Customer shows up and battery's dead. It was a last year's model, lot rot. Batteries don't get stronger over time. They lose charge, they sulfate. and or it has a flat tire, right? We've got to make sure somebody owns that. And so if an item is in the make ready stage, has it gone through pre-delivery inspection? Has somebody owned that? Has somebody reached out to the customer prior to the delivery? We had a rule in my dealership. We didn't make a delivery unless we had reached out to the customer and they confirmed, yeah, we're on. Um, and I preach this all day long, every day of the week and twice on Sunday. When you miss the customer calling them, because most of the time they're not going to answer the phone, send them a text. Manage your deliveries with text. It will get through to a lot more customers. Use the phone, but use text too, and you'll reach a lot more customers. You'll have far fewer, of these dry runs and far fewer missing items in delivery. Right? Go over all things in advance as well with the customer on the order. Um, don't get all the way out there and, oh, we forgot they added on a brush hog. It's happened, right? It's happened to me. If it's happened to me, it's happened to somebody on this call too, probably. I don't want that to happen to you as well. And so communicating well with the customer. Hey, before we come out, just want to run through this order, make sure we have everything here, and the customer will be very quick to go, oh wait, it needs X, right? It's missing this thing. I told you I would talk about dashboard So we looked at this. I'm gonna advance this to remind you this view. If you like the idea of having a view like this of your deals, I mentioned it's very inexpensive to put together something. You could do it even probably cheaper than I'm describing it here, but you got four things you need. Well, five, because you need our CRM or a CRM. But the stick PC on the left, that thing that says Intel inside, it's like smaller than a cell phone, but a little bigger than like a thumb drive, and it just plugs right into an HDMI port on any screen. You go buy a TV at a yard sale if you want to be really cheap, but you can get that stick PC for about $100 on Amazon. With all the Cyber Monday, Black Friday deals going on, they may be cheaper than that, but I've bought a ton of those for like 99 bucks. The next thing is, as you can see, it's a keyboard. It's got a mouse on it. There's some of them that look more like video game controllers, but you need a way to obviously navigate it because it's full on Windows. Okay, you need to be able to open a browser. There's other devices. Some folks have done it with Chromecasts and Chromebits and other, even some smart TVs have got browsers built in. But in the event yours doesn't, that stick PC is gold. And you can get TVs now. I bought a 65-inch TV at Walmart the other day, not on sale, for $348, and it had a Roku built in even at that. It was 4K. It was way more than I needed it for a show. But maybe you don't have room for a 65-inch TV, so you buy a 40-inch TV or a 36-inch TV or something. That little mount on the wall, those are 20 bucks for $400 or $500, and probably, like I said, if you do it on the cheap, you could probably do it for a couple $100 if you buy some of this stuff used. And you can have a dashboard up on the wall that you can meet around and you can talk about it. And that is such an untapped thing. I'm starting to see dealers using this, but imagine being able to meet around it. And you've got the key stakeholders, and you've got you don't talk about the new leads because everybody knows we just contact them, right? But for the ones that are maybe at financing onward, what do we got to do to get them to the next step, the next stage? Are there any hurdles? Is there anything we need from? So you would have somebody representing parts, somebody representing service, somebody representing logistics, the deliveries and pickups, if that's its own department, or otherwise it's whoever wears that hat. But somebody who so that if questions arise around the financing, the delivery, back ordered accessories and parts, back ordered attachments, or just things that need to be special ordered, back ordered or otherwise, that there's the right people there who can speak to that and then go, yeah, this is the ETA, or let me get back to you on that. And when the right people are in the room, don't make it an endless, meeting. It needs to be very time bound. And if there's problems, solve them outside of that meeting. But getting visibility is the first step. And then a next step is being able to do something about it. The compound effect of this is the standalone, some of these changes we've talked about, I mean, most all of these, it's not rocket science. Maybe you've thought of most or all of these things. Hopefully there's some new wrinkles in here. But I see dealers applying some of these things really consistently and some of them not so much. And so for some of you, breakdowns happen at different places than others. That's what I'm saying. It's not typically totally random. It's pretty easy to pinpoint, here's, where an issue happened and, and why. Well, there's nobody who's making sure all the leads are, one lead per rep, one rep per lead rather, or, nobody's really owning the logistics side of things, and so balls are being dropped there too. But when you have visualization of it, you can do something about it, right? The old Peter Druckerism, if you measure it, you can manage it. And so it just needs to be where the right people can see it. And I love working with each of you. You're a really strong and smart and creative bunch. I've seen some creativity that just blew my mind, things that I never even thought to do in my dealership too. And so many of you have found some creative ways to solve these problems. And I hope I've given you some tools to take back and some things to think about. Maybe things that, in some cases, maybe things for the next stage of your dealership. Maybe some of you tried some of these things before and you weren't in a place where you could apply them, and now you are. So leave no stone unturned. But the compound effect of doing all of these things is, think about it from the customer's perspective now, because all these processes exist for a reason. Yeah, we want to sell more money, but from the customer's perspective, they had a smoother interaction because they're not getting multiple salespeople coming at them. Someone is actually getting back with them consistently. They got numbers quick enough to make a decision. They had a smooth financing experience. Delivery and pickup was smooth and seamless, and everything that they expected was there. And as owners, having visibility into owners and managers, visibility in the dollars and the leads in the pipeline. It's so critical to be able to know, I've spent X amount of dollars on marketing this month, and I feel confident that those dollars that I spent are going to translate into X amount of sales based on my close rate, right? I'm going to plug Target CRM. This is my baby. I live and breathe it every day. It's an app that I designed and worked with people way smarter than me who actually wrote the code for it. But I represent our dealer base and outlining these are the things we needed to do. We needed to be able to communicate with customers quickly and easily. So we have phone systems, but most of us don't have integrated ways to text with customers and get paid by text with our text to pay, or a way to communicate at scale with customers. Maybe we're using some third-party tool that's not connected to our dealer management system. And so Target CRM does all of these things. It even asks customers for Google reviews after they made a purchase. And for the purposes of today, the lead management pipeline it's one of the newest features of it, and it's a key way that we can manage chaos and experience some of that compound effect. And so we've got account managers who can work with you on if you've got specific questions and want to get a demo of it and that kind of thing. We're going to take questions here in a couple of minutes. And I do want to plug one other thing, is that appreciate you being a part of this webinar and to show appreciation. We're doing a flash sale too, given it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday week. And so here between now and December 6th, we've got a special where you're going to get 90 days free on monthly support from your implementation. But let's take questions now. What questions might you have around, because I threw a lot of stuff at you and kind of breezed through some of these topics that could probably be a webinar in and of themselves.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you, Tim, for the presentation. As Tim mentioned, we are going to be opening the floor to questions. So if you have any questions that you want answered, feel free to enter them in the question or chat box now, and we'll have them answered live on air with Tim for you. To kick us off, I have a couple questions here, so I'll just start asking them in order. So first is, currently I'm doing sales follow-up on pen and paper. Would you be able to help train my team on setting up a sales pipeline within Target?
Yeah, that's a common one, right? Because so many of us have done the pen and paper thing forever. Maybe, maybe somebody's got literally pen and paper. Some folks maybe have a spreadsheet or a note app that they use. It's pretty common that if there's more than one person doing sales at a dealership, everybody may have their own system for kind of keeping up with the customers. Some folks it's the 30 sticky notes in front of their monitor, and I've done all of those things, over the years. Yeah, we've got a team of experts here who can help you to organize that sales process and digitize it and Target where all your information's in one place, all your customers are in one place.
Perfect. So the next question is, you mentioned leads from websites for follow-up. Could this automatically flow into Target?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually have just started building our website lead integration. So today it doesn't do it. It's something that we're aiming to release within weeks. So it's very close. We've built it, but we haven't released it yet. I should say. So there's a few final things that we need to do before it's out, and we plan to integrate first and foremost with some of the more popular industry websites. So we see a lot of ARI and Dealer Spike websites, and shortly thereafter we'll include some others. We see there's about 20 or 30 different website providers we see out there, and a lot of them they use the same way to get leads into the system, and it's by email. So you'll be able to have those leads come in. You'll have an email address for the CRM and for specifically for those leads, and they'll come right in, add the customer in if they're not already in there, and create the opportunity so that you have visibility of them automatically. That's a great question. Coming soon.
Perfect. So it's that the first question is, will there be a tighter integration between Ideal and Target? Can you tie a sales order or quote to the pipeline?
Yeah, so in fact, I just got off of a call a couple hours ago with our development team on this. What we're pulling into Target today is it's all the customers live, but when it comes to the sales orders and work orders, it's all the stuff that's been checked out. And we're almost ready to release. I think we're still, a few weeks out on releasing this for Ideal dealers, where we'll have access to quotes. So we've got to make a release on the Ideal side of things, and then we're going to make a release on the Target side of things that will happen a little bit later. But that's next up on the Ideal and Target integration is the quotes and open orders even. We have a lot of functionality planned around that, but as it relates to the sales process, especially like top of the list is seeing my quotes with the customer inside the deal. So as of right now, you can open Target inside Ideal, so it's a tab there. So you tab between the two of them, but we get it'll be even faster when you can look under that deal and see the one, two, three different quote scenarios you may have with the customer, and save a couple of clicks. And we're on a mission to eliminate clicks, and so I'm really really excited about that. We have some other stuff that I'm not sure I should talk about yet, but I'll just say there's some automations that involve texting customers and saving you some phone calls based on maybe when certain stages change. That's going to be something that's going to come with the open quotes and open orders. So also coming very soon. Great question.
Perfect. And just tying back to that question as well, Tim, we had a follow-up question to see if that kind of sales order and quote integration is in the pipeline for Infinity to Target CRM.
Yes, yeah, it's going to be available for Ideal, for Infinity, and for Charter Aspen as well.
Perfect. And I know we're running short on time, so I'll just ask this one last question and give you a chance to wrap it up. But the last question here is just, will we see notifications for new deals?
Yeah, great question. We just released notifications when a task is assigned to a user. So let's say somebody is that lead owner we were talking about, sales manager, marketing manager, whatever. And if they assign a task, which tasks and if you've used a CRM or a lead manager before, some call them activities, some call them events, but that would be the follow-up or the thing that you've got scheduled to do with this customer. And so today, when a lead is assigned to you, we train our folks. A best practice is go ahead and assign the first follow-up to that person, and they'll get that notification. But as we just released that like a week and a half ago, our plan is a next step is to actually to just do a notification when that deal is applied as well. So that's coming pretty quickly. We had to basically go to a notification type of system that's kind of like Facebook, right? You log in, I've got 11 things that have happened, and I have sort of this feed. That it's the little for those of you who currently have Target, because I'm sure some of you are on and listening. Um, it's that little bell on the top right, and we could show you offline too if you want. That you'll see, okay, these things happened. But yeah, great question. It's that step is coming so that you're notified when someone has assigned something to you, because we already do it when a conversation is assigned to you. Now, when a task is assigned to you, it makes sense that would be a next step, and that is planned.
Perfect. Well, I think we'll wrap the presentation up there. So I'll pass the mic back to you in a moment, Tim, just to have any final thoughts. But I just wanted to let everybody know that if they do have any follow-up questions or they want any more information about Target CRM, they're welcome to leave a comment in the survey that'll pop up once you exit the webinar. Otherwise, thank you for joining us today, and Tim, I'll pass it back for any last thoughts.
Yeah, no, I want to echo that. Thanks for listening. Some of you are going to be listening later. Many of you listen live. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. None of this is easy. I may have made a lot of it sound a lot easier than it actually is. In reality, you've got to get people to buy in to change and to trying new things, whether that's using a new tool or whether that's trying a new process, whether that's doing something on a computer instead of pen and paper. And so um, you know, wish you the best as you go to apply some of these things. If you have questions, reach out to me. I live in the dealer Facebook groups, Outdoor Power Equipment Dealers, Professional Power Equipment Congress. Reach out to me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, ping me directly. I live in the live chat too on Target CRM for those of you who are in there. So there's a lot of ways to reach me, and I love visiting with y'all and taking ideas for the next step with this, or how do we solve challenges and eliminate that chaos. So really appreciate you. Hope you have an awesome end of November, an awesome holiday season, and we'll talk to y'all later.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.